I'm King Lincoln. It's the end of 2021, or rather the beginning of 2022, but that's the perfect time to discuss the best of last year. Now, I make a lot of YouTube videos for everyone to watch, and I hope people are enjoying them. From the number of likes I get, I think that's what's happening. Remember to click it. Though, every time I get to this point of the year, well, I kind of realize that this video is more for me. It's a chance for me to take stock of everything I've played and become reflexive and think about what I enjoyed the most, or what I think other people should play. In the past, I've talked about Yakuza, Outer Wilds, and Disco Elysium, and this year I'm going to give it another go. I obviously haven't played every game that came out last year, though I did end up playing 295 games. That's not even counting the games I emulated, and yes, I actually do keep track of all this stuff. So I did well, though not every one of those games came out in the last 12 months either, and that's just something I'm okay with. I do what I can with the time I have. My rule for making this list is that a game needs to be something I played between December 1st, 2020 and December 1st, 2021. That's the time frame I need so that I can make this video before New Year's. Oops. If you ask, that's why Halo Infinite isn't here, though I also might not have put it on my list. We'll see next year. I also shouldn't have played the game previously, though there is a pretty big asterisk on that one. We'll get to that title eventually. Before we begin this best of the year, I want to talk a bit about Humble Choice. I don't want to do a deep dive into the quality of the service right now, and there is news of a pretty major change next month, but with 12 bundles in 2021 and approximately 159 games, remember I do keep track of this somewhat obsessively, here's the best out of that bunch. The fact is there were 2 titles that I think stood above all the other games last year. There were quite a few good games. Some runners-up were Civ 6, again, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Ring of Pain, but the top 2 were close. However, there is one title I loved more than enough to finish it, and that was Control. Control is just a solid game that shows off what the RTX can give us. It was my first major exposure to the technology, but beyond that, Control is an interesting and unique game from Remedy Entertainment. The story here is really good as long as you don't ask too many questions, and the world is wonderful. I love the visuals and the experience here. The combat is solid for what it is, but I did think it became a little bit too easy instead of challenging by the end of the game. At the same time, this is one of the few AAA titles for Humble Choice, and while there were others, it was the one I enjoyed the most. If you have it, it's worth playing, though a slight complaint getting the base edition sucked. Finding out now there's no way to buy the DLC on Steam, well, that also stings. But I also want to think about Humble as a larger service. With Control coming out in March 2021, does that mean it was the best month of last year? I would say Control and the second game were neck and neck. Control was slightly better, but the other game was almost as good, though it came out in a better month. Darksiders Genesis and Hellpoint didn't do as much for me. Levelhead and Cook Serve Delicious though are some of my favorite games, and of course having a headliner like Metro Exodus pushed it over the edge. So my favorite month was May 2021. Metro Exodus is really good on its own, and again, pushed the limits with their new RTX required Enhanced Edition. The fact you got both the original game and the Enhanced Edition at the same time was a treat. But like I said, I just never pulled the trigger and got beyond the train section in Metro Exodus. Perhaps one day soon, but after playing the first 2 games in this series, this one feels better, but there's still a wealth of games out there for me. With Humble out of the way though, let's talk about the best games of the year overall. As much as I would love to do a countdown, I kind of struggled this year to tell you which order they go in. I do have a single game of the year, but otherwise these are all amazing and worth playing, so I'm just going to go down the line. I spent a lot of time on which games were the best of 2021, and my opinions will probably change in the future as well. The top game of the list has changed at least 3 different times, to be honest. There were amazing games like Artful Escape, 20XX, and Dicey Dungeon that didn't make this list, unfortunately. I'm sure next year I might play Age of Empire 4 and feel bad I didn't put it on this time, but for now, these are my absolute favorite. We'll start with 2 cheats. Anyone who has heard me talking about games probably has heard me talk about the series. It's the Yakuza franchise, and I'm including the entire franchise as a best of. I'm a massive fan, and this year I was given a huge gift. Yakuza 3 through 6 came out on PC, and that's what I spent most of the first half of this year on, and I have 0 regrets. As a franchise, I just love Yakuza storytelling. They take a style of Yakuza cinema and apply it to a video game, and it's done well over each of the 8 games I've played. Each game has me wondering what might happen next and where the story will go. Every Yakuza game keeps the player involved in the story while tantalizing and tormenting them with thousands of things to do. These are some of the most packed games. Much of the entire series focus on a single neighborhood in Tokyo, but that city continues to have new and entertaining content over each game. This just shows the attention to detail and love that this series has, not just from fans, but the creators too. It's why I couldn't stop playing all these titles. If you enjoy stories in games, definitely play Yakuza. If you like open worlds, Yakuza has an excellent content-rich open world for you to explore, but I also just recommend this series for so many reasons. It's one everyone should check out. It's why I have a video on the entire series so far on PC on my channel. And I have to say it, I'm still waiting for Judgment and Lost Judgment, Sega. I know the challenges with those titles, but I want to complete this collection myself, and then I'll start asking probably for Dead Souls or Ishin or Typing of the Yakuza, which doesn't exist, but come on, think about it, that would actually be awesome! Alright, moving on. The other franchise I really wanted to talk about this year is Life is Strange, and I know I'm really late to this party, but I played the first title in January of this year and couldn't believe how amazing the writing was. Then I started Before the Storm and thought there was no way a prequel could be as good as the original, but Before the Storm blew me away, if you can pardon the pun, a second time. These two games are amazing storytelling and shows what the players can expect from the video game industry. What makes the original Life is Strange stand out so much is it felt like the player was an active participant in the story. Life is Strange uses much of the Telltale formula, but also interweaves the player into the narrative, giving the player the ability to reverse time to consider choices is extremely powerful, and the player ends up feeling the impact of the choices they make all throughout the game. Before the Storm removes the time travel aspect, but instead gives a deep and emotional story where players will be wrapped up in the journey and continually care about what choices are being made and what happens to them on the path. For both of these titles, it's the journey that matters far more than the ultimate destination. That's actually what's so surprising about Before the Storm. The destination is known from the first game, but it's so rare for a prequel to be able to rise above a simple backstory for characters and tell an elegant and fresh story, which Before the Storm does, and does so without having to add unnecessary characters. Of course, there are more titles in the series. Life is Strange 2 had a lead-in title called The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, which is absolutely worth playing. It was incredible. Life is Strange 2 wasn't as good as any of these titles, but it's still worth checking out. Tell Me Why, which technically isn't in the franchise, but it is a similar style and also made by Don't Nod, was also not at the same level, but also a very solid tale and worth playing. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to check out the newest title, Life is Strange 2 Colors, but I am looking forward to playing that maybe in 2022, and who knows, maybe we'll be talking about it again at the same time next year. 2021 was another long year, but two things really kept me going through last year. I did my video on emulation, which was quite enjoyable and reminded me why I like to play retro games and still do. A shout out to Retro Achievements, I'm a top 300 player on that site now. Woo! And I played a little Warframe in May and June, July, August, September. Yeah, I spent about 200 hours playing Warframe this year, and I don't know if I've ever put that level of time into any other title outside of an MMO. And yes, technically I started playing Warframe around 2016. Like I said, there is an asterisk here, but with that level of time commitment and an already busy schedule, it's really hard not to talk about that. Warframe just had a lot of content that kept me coming back. There's a great feeling of progression in multiple different areas, but also once players get a decent arsenal, which doesn't really take too long, they pretty much can choose what they want to do, and from there the sky's the limits. Players can try to collect multiple different frames, go through the now massive storyline, unlock rear frames, there's weapons, gear to collect, as well as tons of different new experiences that have been unlocked over the years, which is also one of the few minor issues I could have though. Warframe does have a decent amount of grinding involved in most of it, which it surprises me that I never really minded that so much outside of one resource, the Nitane extract. Otherwise, so much of the game is accessible without paying a single cent. Warframe even uses something similar to the loot box mentality with their void relics, but with zero money transactions, just mystery boxes, and done in an amazingly fair manner, it's pretty good. Most of the purchases can be earned with relatively reasonable effort by players in-game. But Warframe just has a content-filled universe waiting for players to forge their destiny, and in that way I really can recommend Warframe, which even now has a new expansion that just came out last month. Warframe can be overwhelming at first, but it's worth checking out in 2022. Filming footage for this even put me at the edge of a precipice. I could dive into this game and play for another 100 hours, and if it wasn't for the release schedule I had, I probably would have taken that plunge and been very happy with it. Speaking of content-rich games, there's Forza Horizon 5. I don't really think a driving game should win a Game of the Year, but whether it's the quality of the year we've just had, or just how ridiculously good Forza Horizon is, Forza was always going to be on this list. It's a racing game that isn't focused on the track. Players can jump into any car they like and find something awesome or amazing to do. Whether it's hunting down collectibles, cruising the streets, chasing the stories, or collecting cars, there's a huge world to explore. The competitive parts of Forza Horizon are just as welcoming, whether it be Battle Royale, which I honestly still can't believe they pulled off, racing in a group, or just random matches. There's a lot to find, and with the weekly season system, players will have reasons to return to this game for a long time. The graphics, though, are truly amazing, and the experience is something else. The Forza Horizon Festival is no longer just a celebration of racing, but a celebration of driving or just cars in general, and seeing a map full of objectives to chase down or tackle will give players so many options. There can be a bit of analysis paralysis, but many of the choices here can be linked together, and the experience of just cruising around feels so slick. I will say I've played a little bit less of Forza after a month or two, but I still enjoy dropping into the game for an hour or two every so often, and there are those free weekly challenges to keep the game lively for people who just want more. I put Forza on the top of my November 2021 Game Pass list, but honestly I think there might have been a better game. Let's talk about It Takes Two. This is a ridiculously good game. The more I've played it, the better it's gotten. The level design alone is brilliant as it constantly changes the art with each area and keeps coming up with new inventive uses for everyday items. You don't just hang on a nondescript pole, but instead you pull a corkscrew attached to a rope that leads to a pot lid. The story here is also impactful, focusing on a married couple that's going through a divorce and what toll that's taking on the family, yet at the same time, you're battling a giant toolbox or fighting a vacuum cleaner. The writing is well done and the story is told throughout the game, not just in cutscenes or narrative moments. The gameplay as well is heavily focused on cooperation with your partner. This is also the reason it's not my best of the year. Let me be clear, It Takes Two is amazing and worthy of every level of praise. It very likely would get a 10 out of 10 from me, however it has a rather major flaw in my opinion, where it requires 2 players. Unlike Gears 5 or Back 4 Blood where players can play with AI partners, or in some games you can control both characters at the same time, It Takes Two requires 2 players to work simultaneously. The bigger issue is with such a narrative-driven game, you'll want to play with a single partner the whole time, but worse, this is a pretty meaty story. If you're not playing with someone who plays games often, it's going to take far longer than the 10 hours people are claiming. And yet the journey you're on is worth taking, especially if you have someone you can commit the time with and are close to. You know, someone you're dating, an older child, a spouse would be perfect, of course. It's just a large commitment of their time as well, and scheduling that may be challenging. None of this is to say the game should change, but those issues have me struggling to find time to play it myself or to recommend it as the best of the year. I wanted to finish this game before New Year's. I had a full week available, but having to schedule other people's times too means, well, I'm only a third of the way through this amazing journey. The good news though is I think there is still one better title anyways. What do I mean by the best of the year? You know, I don't know. Is it the best game I played? Is it the game I think most people will like? Is it the game I played the most? Congratulations, Warframe! But I'd like to give the award of the best game to the one that I think the viewers absolutely must play. If there's one game you need to check out, that's the title that deserves it, and I think there's a perfect choice this year that lives up to it. Inscription, which honestly is also a problem. After all that build-up, I don't want to say too much here. Inscription is an excellent game made by Daniel Mullins, the developer of the Hex and Pony Island, 2 absolutely fantastic games. However, Inscription does everything far better. This will look like a simple card battler. There's a card game and a table where the player can get up and walk around a small room, and that's how the game starts. But what I can tell you is this is one of the most amazing and intense rides. I was up at 1 AM playing the game and I kept telling myself, I just want to see a little more and then I'll go to bed. I did that for the next 3 hours. I know I'm not saying too much about it, but the card game is a big piece of the core of the game, but it's not as big a challenge as most card battlers. The thing is, if you are interested, try not to hear too much about this experience, but go in as fresh as possible because this is an amazing game. There is an excellent story here. This is easily one of my favorite games of the year. I'm dying here to dive deeper into this one to really discuss why I loved it, but I would be disappointed if someone robbed me of the entire experience, so consider Inscription if you haven't played it already, and if you have, well, you probably know why I and other reviewers like it. It's a unique and interesting game in a sea of microtransactions and bloated experiences. And on that note, I think that's how I'm going to be remembering 2021 as well. Hopefully 2022 is better. I see a lot more games coming this year, and I'm already ahead of the curve. At the current rate, I might be talking about the best of close to 400 games next year. Help me! 2021, though, has been a big year for me as well. My channel has grown quite a bit. I think I found a format I'm happy with. I'm playing a lot of great games. But beyond that, I want to thank all my viewers. I thank everyone often enough because I could just play the games myself, but it's the support of everyone who watches me that pushes me to keep making these videos and will continue to do so. I don't know what 2022 is going to bring us, but I'm looking forward to it. As I said, this was a video made for myself, but, you know, I still have to do the YouTube spiel. If you're new, first, thanks for watching a best of list from someone you aren't already a fan of, and maybe consider subscribing so next year we'll be old friends. Ringing that bell helps you find out when my new videos are coming out, of course. Likes and comments always help the channel no matter who you are, and if you're interested, I have a Discord server down in the description. Join up and come hang out. I'll throw up my series retrospective of Yakuza, which was something I was trying to start in 2021 and didn't take off. And I'll let YouTube figure out what else you should watch. See you next time.